Hey there, today we are going to draft a curved waistband, which is really great for those of you who find that when you make a regular rectangular waistband that you have a gap at your waist. So grab your measuring tape and you're going to take two measurements. We're going to measure your high waist, which is where you want the top of your waistband to hit. It's at that natural bend in your waist. Or if you prefer to wear your waistband a little lower, then you would just simply measure where you want the top of your waistband to hit. And we're going to call that the high waist. The second measurement that you're going to take is your low waist. And this will be where you want the actual waistband to meet the garment that you're attaching it to. Or simply put, if you want to make your waistband a 2-inch waistband, then you're going to measure 2 inches down from where you've just measured. So take the high waist and the low waist. And for the sake of vocabulary, this is not the technical definition of high waist and low waist, but I just want to make sure that you understand that there are going to be two waist measurements that you're going to take. All right, so grab your paper and we're going to draft a rectangle the length of the top waist measurement that we just took. And we're going to add seam allowance to give yourself room to add a zipper and to have room enough to move and breathe comfortably. I prefer my waistbands to fit me snugly but comfortably, so I add 1 to 1.25 inches for seam allowance at the end. This time I'm going to add 1.25 inches. Now for the height of my waistband, I'm going to add 1 inch to the height because I need to add seam allowance at the top and bottom of this waistband because this will be a waistband that will be sewn at the top and bottom. So I'm going to add 1 inch. So I'm going to draw my waistband to be 3 inches because I want a visible 2-inch waistband. So whatever size that you want to be visible for your waistband, add 1 inch. And then just go ahead and close that rectangle up and cut out your shape. So take your shape and fold it in half and make a crease in the middle. Then next, take one of those halves and fold it again. You're going to make another crease. And repeat this on the other side. You should end up with 4 sections and 3 creases. And just for the sake of this tutorial, and to make sure that those lines are visible for you, I'm going to just run over them with a Sharpie, but you can be fine to just leave those as creases. Next, take your paper scissors and we are going to cut into those creases, but we're not going to cut through them. So we're going to create a hinge by cutting through the line, but not all the way through. So I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm stopping just short, like a 1/16 of an inch. It's just enough to create a hinge to where my paper won't tear apart. And we're going to do that on all of the creases. If you found that you've accidentally cut all the way through on one of the segments, then just tape it back together to create the hinge. When you're finished, your paper pattern should look like this. So now that you have slashed and spread your waistband pattern, we're going to create the new shape. So what I've done here is just placed it on a larger piece of paper, and I'm going to spread it out a bit and use my pattern weights to weigh it down. I don't suggest you tape at this point because you're going to be moving this piece around until you get it just right, and it's just easier to not have to pull up and tape and risk tearing your pattern piece. So I like to keep the areas that have been spread relatively even, especially here in the middle. So I'm just kind of adjusting here to make sure that it looks even with the spread out areas. So since we've cut the waistband in the smallest number, or our high waist, we know that the top of the waistband will be the right size. What we're concerned with is getting the bottom the right size. So spread everything out evenly, take your tape measure and walk it around the bottom edge of your pattern. And I have about 3 extra inches, so I have a lot of space in here that I don't need. And so what the number you're looking for here is your low waist measurement. So I have spread out my pattern too much, so I'm simply just going to adjust it and close it up where I have spread it, and then I'm going to remeasure. And again, you want to make sure that the area that is in between where the pattern is hinged, you want to make sure that that's even. And I'm just eyeballing that. So I'm just adjusting it, and then I'm going to remeasure. I'm just going to make it a little smaller. You may need to walk your measuring tape and remeasure up to 3 times, and however many times you need to. But that's the beauty of not taping it down, is that you can just easily adjust it with just the pattern weights. Now that I've measured and got everything situated the way I like, I'm just going to add a few more pattern pieces because I'm going to trace my new pattern. The biggest areas that you want to concentrate on are where you have cut your pattern, because they may tend to get a little pointed when you trace them. But right now you just want to trace the general shape, and then we're going to go back in and smooth it out because it needs to be a nice rounded line. And so I have generally got a decent shape here, but I do see some points that I need to clean up and make a little more rounded. So I like to use this ruler. This is a styling design ruler by Dritz. It's a combination of a armhole curve or a French curve, armhole, hip curve, and a straight edge ruler. I like it because it gives a very gentle curve, and I like to place it to add soft curves where I need to. So I'm going to play with this to where I find that I'm closest, because I don't want to make huge adjustments to the curve of this waistband. There we go. I just want to clean up the curve a little bit. Or I'm just shaving off or adding to barely 1/8 of an inch, but I just want to get it nice and clean. If you don't have this ruler, then just eyeball it to the best of your ability. But take your time and get it as clean and as clean as you can. So I'm not doing the whole waistband, I'm just doing the edges that look a little pointy. And I'm going to check myself, because see, I'm working upside down so you can see. So I'm just going to flip it around and check myself really quickly. Okay, so I like the way that looks. So I like the way this looks, and now I'm just going to cut it out. So there you go, you've got your nice new curved waistband pattern piece, and I just like to label mine generally on what they are and the date that I created it, and that way I know if I've gone through weight changes or something like that, then I know that this maybe needs to be updated. And so that's how I keep my patterns organized. So I hope that you found this very helpful. If you have any questions that I haven't answered in the video, check the description box for any frequently asked questions, and then leave me a comment if you don't find the answers there. So I look forward to hearing from you. Bye. Hey, why don't you take this tutorial with this curved waistband and draft this gorgeous, sexy, high split maxi skirt? Click the video for the link to the tutorial and sew along with me.